Hi, and welcome to this presentation on integrated learning within the primary school. Integration refers to teaching and learning processes that connect skills, knowledge, and understandings, which in turn allows students to recognise the real world and meaningful connections within, between, and beyond subjects. My name is Sarah, and today I will be examining the within subjects approach to integration, also known as an interdisciplinary approach. Looking deeper, I will examine the connected approach within this discipline. This will be followed by Jamie, who is discussing integration between subjects, otherwise known as a multidisciplinary approach, and the webbed approach that is developed from this discipline. Finally, Maddie delves into integration beyond subjects, or the transdisciplinary approach, and looks specifically at the immersed approach. Let's get started with the interdisciplinary approach. This approach views integration within single disciplines. In adopting an interdisciplinary approach, teachers teach curricular areas separately and distinctly, rather than reaching across subjects, as is evident in the other approaches to integration. Within this single curricular area, subdisciplines and the skills and knowledge distinct to these are connected when able and taught together, the connection between them crucial to the lesson or unit. An integrated curriculum requires educators that will challenge their students to make connections. This highlights the relevance of a connected approach to integration, as its main purpose is to connect learning, whether it be from one day to the next or one unit to the following unit. This approach, focusing within subjects, respects the chosen curricular area as distinct and encompassing distinct knowledge. In implementing, teachers also focus on ensuring students recognise the connections between subdisciplines and in doing so support one aspect of a high-quality curriculum. So what might this look like within the primary school? Teachers will often collaborate with other teachers working within the same area to ensure connections are taught subject-wide. However, you may find little to no collaboration between teachers of other curricular areas, as this approach remains within a single area. In the classroom, a class-wide book reading would be implemented with the aim of examining text structure and organisation, responding to literature, and responding to others, reaching across the subdisciplines of the English curricular area. Teachers may also use the connected approach to connect the knowledge of a subject across multiple lessons. In adhering to the school's connected approach to integration, the science teacher would ensure that multiple aspects of the subject are connected and taught together. A unit on weather, for example, may begin by exploring earth and space sciences within the science understanding discipline, and students might learn how the weather affects their pets at home. The teacher would then move the unit on to science as a human endeavour, nature and development of science, in which students share their experiences and observations. Finally, to conclude the unit, the teacher may require students to explore questioning and predicting from within the science inquiry subdiscipline, and connect this with the learning that has occurred throughout the unit. Thus, when planning and implementing the unit, teachers ensure the connections within the subject are made and emphasised for students. However, this highlights how the connected approach is more subject-centred rather than student-centred, as it requires the teacher to plan lessons with the connections evident, and the teacher must determine the best arrangement of the subdisciplines to ensure for maximum learning. This also proposes that any inquiry within the lessons will be structured, as it is directed by the teacher with the aim of specific connections being made. Moving on to theories. The most relevant to the connected approach is the cognitivist theory, as it views learning as a mental activity that requires internal structuring of knowledge. The focus of this theory is on how information is stored and organised, just as the connected approach aims to organise its instruction in a way that will emphasise connections. Particularly relevant to the connected approach is the cognitivist theory's reliance upon schemata, or chunks of knowledge, that are connected and linked together in a comprehensible manner. This theory recognizes the influence on learning that a teacher's instructional practices can hold and suggests that accommodation is better supported when the teaching practices connect information within a single curricular area. Unfortunately, in focusing on a single curricular area, statements made by the Australian Curriculum and Assessment Reporting Authority are overlooked. These statements note that the disciplines of the curriculum are connected and that cross-disciplinary learning should be practiced as, when done so effectively, the ability to learn is broadened and enriched. Furthermore, according to Johnson, teaching subjects in isolation has reached its limits in regards to what it can provide 21st century students, and it actually hinders deeper learning. In doing so, the connected approach limits the level of integration achievable and highlights the following approach, the multidisciplinary approach, as possibly a more effective method of integration. So let's meet Jamie and take a look at the multidisciplinary approach to see whether this is the case.
Thank you, Sarah. The multidisciplinary approach is an approach that focuses on integrating between or across subject areas. Unlike the interdisciplinary approach, where skills and knowledge are connected within one subject, Gordon 2014 explains how the multidisciplinary approach requires teachers to arrange units, topics, or skills across several subject areas so that related material can be taught simultaneously. Within Forgay's continuum of curriculum integration, the multidisciplinary approach is made up of 5 models. These models include sequenced, shared, webbed, threaded, and integrated. More specifically, I will be analysing and evaluating the key information and ideas behind the webbed model. The webbed model consists of a central theme with subjects stemming off the main idea in the middle, just like a web. The Australian curriculum suggests teachers who use a webbed approach develop integrated units of work to link content between subjects. I witnessed a fantastic example of this model in practice earlier this year when completing one of my placements with Year 2 students. The central theme was pirates, which was both age appropriate and interesting for students. In English, they focus on vocabulary and similarities and differences between 2 pirate books. From the books, students learnt about pirate terminology, in which they made their own pirate dictionaries and completed word searches. They spoke about the alliteration the authors used in both the books, and they made their own pirate names using alliteration. For their final assessment piece, students were required to complete a written comparison between the books. During mathematics, students explored measurement and geometry concepts by following directions to locate, treasure, and other objects on pirate maps. And the teacher also promoted visual arts around the central theme of pirates by creating their own wanted pirate posters. This was a great example of the webbed model in practice. This is a basic past webbed model that I have sourced from Stewart 2010. The theme birds would be suitable for any primary year level, however this example is better suited to the foundation year. The teacher has designed a lesson plan that integrates a play-based curriculum amongst other learning areas. For example, she has integrated art into the bird theme by planning a bird's nest activity, which students created using a variety of different materials. English was incorporated into the theme by using feathers to complete writing tasks and engaging in both books and magazines of birds. An egg sorting game where students were required to sort eggs into cartons by their colour was the integration approach of mathematics. And finally, science was also intertwined into the curriculum planning through activities such as bird watching, where students documented their bird observations, and sorted feathers in which they had collected. The webbed model is a beneficial approach to integrating curriculum for a number of reasons. Firstly, it acknowledges the need to re-engage learners through the use of high-interest themes among students. As an adult, aren't you more likely to participate and strive in something you're interested in as opposed to something you're not? Well, that's exactly how students feel too. Their engagement level is enhanced when we choose themes that are relevant and appeal to them. By re-engaging students and promoting their mutual interests, we motivate them to do better. This then reflects their levels of achievement because Hewitt states how motivated students achieve better results. Secondly, Integrating curriculum through a webbed approach stimulates deeper learning. Deep understanding often depends upon the interactions and intersections between the disciplines. Appleby 2015 states that when the theme of the content interests students, it is commonly rooted into real-life experiences. This gives students an authentic purpose to learn and connect their learning to the real world. This approach makes learning so meaningful and results in deeper learning experiences that stay with students for a lifetime. Knowledge is also acquired more easily and is remembered for a longer period of time when connections are created between ideas and concepts. Finally, a webbed approach in teaching and learning encourages the use of multidisciplinary 21st century skills such as critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. By integrating learning areas within multidisciplinary themes, teachers can help learners obtain relevant career and life skills. Although the webbed approach offers a number of beneficial factors, it is also important to consider the suitability this approach has to the intended year level. For example, the pirate theme worked really well with the Year 2 students because it was interesting and engaging for them. However, deciding on a theme for upper primary school may be more challenging as older students may not be interested in the same things. Students process information and tasks differently. Through a cognitive perspective, we can align the webbed model of integration with the likes of philosophers such as Howard Gardner. According to Natassa 2011, Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence represents an influential framework in support of multidisciplinary approaches in both teaching and learning. Teachers quite naturally utilize different intelligence to deliver lessons. For example, showing students what they are expected to do and giving them verbal instructions. Using a theme to integrate subjects provides students with opportunities to better understand the concepts taught through his or her own ways of learning. Another theory that supports the webbed model includes constructivism. A constructivist theory is based on the assumption that people actively construct or make their own knowledge. John Dewey believed that children learn best when they interact with their environment and are actively involved with their school curriculum. This aspect of his theory was acknowledged earlier in the classroom example of the bird lesson. In each subject, mathematics, English, art, and particularly science, all students engage directly with their environment, for example collecting feathers and observing the birds outdoors for scientific purposes. A webbed approach to teaching and learning encourages students to link present content to previous experience and knowledge, which is yet another feature of Dewey's theory. Dewey also placed great emphasis on the social context of learning. However, Maddie will elaborate on the social constructivist theory further as she explores our third approach to integrated studies, the transdisciplinary approach.
Thank you, Jamie. I will now discuss the transdisciplinary approach. This is a beyond subject area or beyond discipline approach, as this form of integration starts with a problem, issue, or concern rather than a subject area. According to Hanlon 2014, there is a growing awareness that an overcrowded curriculum contributes to lack of student engagement and to shallow coverage rather than in-depth understanding. To lift student achievement, we need a curriculum response acknowledging the needs to re-engage learners. The transdisciplinary approach focuses on re-engaging students by integrating curriculum through open-ended questions and real-world problems. The immersed approach focuses on re-engaging students through the lens of interest or expertise of the students. Gordon 2014 states that using a backwards design or backwards planning method is best when teaching an immersed approach. The Glossary of Education Reform 2013 states that a backwards planning method allows the teacher to negotiate the big picture topic, whether this is a community issue or interest of the students, and then look at the curriculum and set the learning objectives. From this, the teacher can design assessments and finally plan individual lessons or projects that will support students in meeting their learning objectives. An example of the immersed approach is seen in classrooms through inquiry units that reflect students' interests. For example, students all over the world recently participated in a school strike for climate change. This is a real-world issue that students are engaged in and are passionate about. It can be modified to meet the curriculum requirements for students in all year levels. The example I will explain today focuses on Year 5 content descriptors. Using the immersed approach with the focus on the school strike for climate change, the teacher could plan a series of lessons around civics and citizenship, where students research and explore the inquiry question, how and why do people participate in groups to achieve shared goals, while incorporating research on how scientific knowledge is used to solve problems and inform personal and community decisions. A science is a human endeavour content descriptor. Incorporating these aspects of research, students could then produce a persuasive text meeting English content descriptors within the creating text substrand. As you can see from my table, the example inquiry unit meets the structure of both Murdoch's inquiry method and the 5Es method. Within this inquiry unit, students will not only be developing HASS, science and English knowledge, they will also be learning through the cross-curriculum perspective of sustainability and general capabilities such as ICT capabilities, critical and creative thinking, ethical understanding, personal and social capabilities and intercultural understanding. You can see how this approach is different from the connected approach, where the course content stays within each subject area, and how it is similar to the webbed approach in that students use a theme to focus their learning. Now, the immersed approach is a great way of getting students involved in their learning, however, cannot be used for all learning. This is why the inquiry method works so well with immersed learning, as students will have allocated lessons towards math and English alongside their immersed learning, not instead of. Mathematics is a difficult unit to teach through the immersed approach, and while aspects of mathematics can be used through an inquiry unit, this works best when students are practicing already developed math skills, not for teaching specific math knowledge and skills. Students might use data interpretation while researching the school strike for climate change, but they won't be learning number and place value throughout this inquiry unit. Some of the benefits of the immersed approach are that immersed learners are constantly making connection to their subjects. The immersed approach allows students to learn through their interests and expertise. The immersed approach allows a whole class topic learning, such as the previous example on the climate strike, or learning through individual interests, such as allowing students to pick their own inquiry topic. Immersed learning engages students and allows students to display their interests and their passions. Now to theories relevant to the immersed approach. The inquiry approach encourages students through active investigation to unify rather than separate knowledge. Murdoch, 1998. Active involvement on the part of students in constructing their knowledge is essential to effective teaching and learning. Murdoch, 1998. Social constructivism is a foundation for the inquiry method. Students learn through asking and answering their own questions and through collaboration, both big aspects in inquiry learning. Students learn through interactions with their culture and society. Lynch, 2018. This can be seen in the immersed approach when students pick topics that impact on their community needs. Learning through an inquiry method is not a new concept for teachers, with Kath Murdoch describing the inquiry approach in her book, Classroom Connections, Strategies for Integrated Learning, published over 20 years ago. Learning through an inquiry approach allows students to actively investigate and draw together knowledge, which in turn allows students to develop facts and wider understandings on concepts. This approach is student-centered, outcomes-based, and moves from the perspective that knowledge is taught to knowledge is learned. From this statement, you can see the connections between the inquiry method and social constructivism, and how social constructivism is a big foundation for inquiry. This also brings out connections to the webbed approach through links of constructivism and social constructivism, where students develop knowledge through interacting with the environment and engaging with the curriculum. This contrasts with the connected approach in that the immersed approach opens channels of inquiry and investigation, unlike the connected approach, which is a subject-specific approach to integration and closes channels of inquiry. As you can see, integrated learning is an important approach to learning that can be displayed in a range of ways, whether it is through an interdisciplinary approach, such as the connected approach, a multidisciplinary approach, such as the webbed approach, or a transdisciplinary approach, like the immersed approach. Each approach brings its own benefits and limitations and has its place in the classroom. We hope you have developed an understanding of these three approaches we have discussed today and feel confident utilising these within your classroom. Thank you.